Hello, bonjour, and welcome to the Get French Football News Show. I'm Nathan Staples, and joining the regulars of Eric Devine and Philippe Bargil this week is Goal.com's Mohamed Ali. Well, we expected fireworks on the opening weekend of the Liga season, but we didn't quite expect it to be so explosive. Plenty of odd results, comebacks, and even an early managerial departure. But all that's to come after Eric tells us the latest news.
Thanks, Nathan. With Liga swinging into action, as well as three sides with European fixtures, French football got off to a flying start in the past week. In midweek Champions League action, Monaco put young boys of Bern to the sword with a comprehensive 4-0 victory, allowing them to advance to the playoff round against Valencia, with matches to be played the 3rd and 4th weeks of August. In the Europa League, things were quite a bit nervy for Saint-Etienne at the Stade Guichard on Thursday as Romanian side Targu Mureș took a 2-0 lead, threatening to erase the 3-0 lead from the first leg. An own goal later on allowed Lever to slip through to the playoff round 4-2 in aggregate, where they will face Moldovan side Milsami Orhai, an opponent that will be familiar to Christophe Galtier and company, the sides having clashed in Europe as recently as 2 years ago. Bordeaux, meanwhile, put out a somewhat understrength side for their visit to Cypriot side AEK Laranca, but nevertheless trotted out 4-0 winners on aggregate thanks to the match's only goal, a 28th minute strike from Sweden's youth international Isaac Kiese Thelen. Kazakhstan's FC Kairat, managed by former Slovakia manager Vladimir Weiss, await in the playoff round. In Ligue 1, an early dismissal of Adrien Rabiot was not enough to help Lille overcome PSG in the top flight's opening fixture. Despite inspired play from several of Lille's newest acquisitions, Lucas' goal midway through the second half was all the match had to offer. In the multiplex, promoted side Angers surprised Montpellier 2-0 at the Monson, as sloppy marking gave the visitors a 2-0 win that must have had some in the crowd longing for Hilton and El Qatari. The real shock, however, was at the Velodrome, as Marseille fell 1-0 to a Caen side that perhaps rode their luck a bit, but nevertheless defended resolutely. New man Andy Delors' goal on 27 minutes the difference. Nantes were able to ease past Guingamp 1-0 in an early season Breton derby thanks to a late own goal, while Bastia and Monaco both staged 2-1 come-from-behind wins at home to Rennes and away to Nice respectively. In the final match of the multiplex, promoted sides Troyes and Gazlec Ajaccio helped each other's causes with a scoreless draw. Sunday's late afternoon kickoff saw two 2-1 wins, with hosts Toulouse coming from behind to beat Saint-Etienne, all three goals the result of set pieces. Both Christophe Galtier and Dominique Arribagé were sent to the stands after arguing over a rash challenge by Daniel Pesic on Loic Perrin. There was more variety in the scoring in Bordeaux, but the result wasn't as ideal for the hosts, as Reims scored twice in the match's final 10 minutes to send the hosts to defeat after Wabi Kazri had put Willie Samuel's side in front just before halftime. In Lyon, Lorient displayed a newfound resolve in defense, but still needed several fine saves from Benjamin Lecomte to hold Legon to a scoreless draw. In Ligue 2, Le Havre and Créteil are level at the top with 6 points from 2 matches, with 5 sides just behind them on 4, as the 22nd division sides prepare for their midweek Coupe de la Ligue fixtures. Alexandre Lacazette has quelled speculation over his future for the time being by renewing his Lyon contract through 2019, although a back injury to the striker has given Hubert Fournier some immediate cause for worry. The week's biggest story, however, was the shock departure of Marcelo Bielsa from Marseille. Disappointed with his player's performance in the home loss to Caen, he announced his departure after the match's conclusion, and assistant Franck Passy will work with the team on an interim basis. That's all the news for now. Back to you, Nathan.
Thank you, Eric, and as always, for all your latest French football news, head on over to our website and our Twitter. The links are in the description. Also, get involved with the show tonight by tweeting at our show handle at the GFFN show, or use the hashtag the GFFN show. We'll try our best to read some of your tweets out during the show. Our first topic this week starts where we always seem to start, and it looks like the 2015-16 season will be no different. Marseille fell to a 1-0 defeat at Caen on the opening weekend, but that's only half the story. Manager Marcelo Bielsa announced his departure straight after the game. I want to get your opinion on this first, Mel. Welcome to the show.
Thanks.
There's been mixed messages from all over the place since Saturday. What's your take on Bielsa walking out on the club?
Well, after the initial reaction of shock, what's key to find out is what exactly went on between Bielsa and the president, Vincent Lebrun. And there's so many different standpoints on this and so many commentators and analysis. But for me, it seems that a few weeks ago, an agreement was found for a contract extension, and certain particulars were agreed, or at least verbally agreed, by the two parties. And just before the beginning of the season, something went amiss. The general management of the club, that includes Felipe Perez, who's a GM, he wanted to change a few aspects of the contract, and Bielsa, who's obviously he feels like he's already been targeted unfairly by the management last year over the signing of Doria. It's more of a case of fool me once, shame on you, but fool me twice. I'm going back to Argentina. And he's a principled man, and it doesn't matter what the scenario is. He will do whatever he feels like, and he feels like the trust isn't there. So therefore, he'll bring his tenure to a close. And I don't think he himself knows the magnitude of such a decision. But in the end of the day, he feels that it's a case between manager and board, and the board has, for the second time, done something to displease the manager, and now the manager will take it upon himself to resign.
Well, it's been very odd. Philip, what's your take on it?
Yeah, it's strange. It's strange, and it's the timing is just really poor from Marcelo Bielsa. He's been completely vilified by the press and by all the managers. His surname is El Loco, so the mad guy, and people like Galtier, who are not sweethearts themselves, said that he deserves his surname. It's a timing of the situation. I mean, if he wasn't happy at Marseille, he should have said something in May. And there we are. Opening day of the season, Marseille lose to Caen at home, which really shouldn't be a decision-making game. It's just really poor timing. I have no idea where Marseille go from there. But it's not really surprising, because you just moved between Bielsa and Labrune. Things were not going well. Labrune basically sold every single player when there was cash to be made. He just sold them. And Marseille, I'm not sure if they'll have a good or a bad season. I think they'll be actually all right, because they sold great players like Aru and Payet. But got some good players. But now the season's already started. The window's going to end in a month, and it's a big mess. And Marseille have to play the Europa League on top of that. I'm not even sure they want to. It's really, I mean, it's a real shame. It's a real shame, especially. I'm always really passionate about French football clubs, obviously in Europe, be it in the Champions League or Europa League, and I just don't see Marseille doing that well. So I'm really just like basically everybody else, a bit dumbstruck. But what can you do? I don't think we've got that many more information for now.
Eric, what's your take on Bielsa leaving so suddenly?
It's taken me by surprise, because I had a piece on the site today, and if you go through this team, the young center backs looked great yesterday. Sparagna and Rekik, Mendy and JJ are back. Batshuayi, I think, had several chances to score. It wasn't a bad result necessarily. It was just, the idea of these attacking players sort of getting on the same level with each other. Defensive infield didn't look that great, but I mean, you've got Abu Dhabi and Lastiara waiting in the wings. If one or both of them pans out, I feel like this is a pretty complete team. It's not down to what's happening on the pitch, I don't think. We also may have in some ways been using that as an excuse, but I mean, as Mo said, it's down to these boardroom issues. And, obviously Marseille are a powerful club. Obviously Bielsa is difficult to work with. If results were at all stagnant, this is never going to be a match made in heaven. I mean, you're re-signing your manager to a new deal 3 weeks before the season starts. There's no excuse for that. It doesn't make any sense on Marseille's part. If they really believed that Bielsa was the man to lead them forward, which he certainly could have been with his collection of young talent. Bringing in the likes of Sarr and there's a lot of exciting young players coming in as well. You can't treat a manager like that and expect him to, put in the graft and effort it's going to take to develop these young players into something cohesive and approaching the level of play that we saw from the team earlier last season. That was a much more of a veteran team, and this is going to be like turning on a light switch.
Well, it's been reported, as we've said, that Bielsa wanted bonuses and assurances. There's talks that he was threatening to leave at times and had talks with West Ham in the summer. Then he's accusing the board of changing their agreement, and then the players are upset that he's gone without really saying anything. It's a real mess, isn't it, Mel?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. And it's a mess that could have at least been handled a lot better if such was the case that on Wednesday there was this important meeting regarding the contract, a press conference early in the week from Bielsa, or at least a communique that would say, look, I'm not happy, and I feel that my time here will come to an end, and I'll take charge of the final game on Saturday, and I'm off. Even then, the situation could have been a little bit better and at least a lot more prepared, but Saturday night, some of the players still in the dressing room, and then finding out via Twitter, via text messages from friends and family that the coach has indeed gone. It's not something obviously that a lot of players will take kindly to, and some of the players have actually spoken, even if on condition of anonymity, of their displeasure, their respect for Bielsa, but their displeasure at how things have panned out. For some reason, I always think that Marseille is always a club and a city on edge because of the emotion and the tension. That's just how the club seems to function. And such a situation which epitomizes those traits, it's not going to help matters. For Lebrun, I don't know where to go on next. I personally don't think he did this deliberately or trying to save cash and trying to coax Bielsa into a different type of contract in order to just save some money and do without particular bonuses and hope that you don't give him the power that he wants. But I think for some reason something has gone on between those two that has left Bielsa without a job and left Lebrun without a manager, and both of their messages and details after the press conference on Saturday, Lebrun says he was dumbfounded by Bielsa's choice, and Bielsa himself says, "Look, you haven't given me what I wanted, so therefore I'm out of here." And it just leaves a whole confusion around the club. And this week, preparations for the next game against Reims on Sunday will not go well. Some of the players that have come specifically with Bielsa, like Javier Manquillo and Karim Rekik, they'll wonder, have I come here under false pretenses? The coach has left immediately after signing for the club. It's the same thing what Florian Thauvin used in 2013 when he signed for Lille and thought, hang on, I've joined the club that in the end didn't reach his league and they don't have the same coach that I signed for, therefore I don't want to stay here. We have that sort of situation now with Marseille, and we don't know. The next 2 weeks or 3 weeks will be interesting. The window's open, anything can happen, and I wouldn't be surprised if senior players who are already on the verge, like Mandanda and Nkulu, think, hang on, is now the right time to jump ship? Mandanda did say, at least for all the departures of Ayew and Gignac, Payet, at least the main man is still here. Well, he's not here anymore, and they will start to think it's now not as good a time as any to quit the club.
Well, you make an excellent point there, Mel. Is the exodus to come? Sorry?
Yeah, I'm just want to weigh in just before we jump into the next question. I'm more dumbstruck by Bielsa's lack of you just can't do that when you're a manager. I mean, you do it before. I've got a lot of things. Lebrun has a lot of faults, and for some reason I actually feel sorry for him this time, because all summer long they were arguing about Nkulu. Jean-Michel Aulas, Lyon chairman, wanted to buy Nkulu, and Lebrun was basically going absolutely mad on Twitter about who's the best chairman and who's the bigger man. And now he just finds himself without a manager, and he's trying to save face. But he doesn't even have his own managers to back him up with a decent project. And I really wouldn't like to be in his shoes right now, even though and it's not like he brought this all up on himself. It's just Bielsa jumping ship just like that, and it puts Lebrun in a horrible position. But they have and they have reacted to me. I think they've reacted quite diplomatically since the departure, which is quite commendable. All said and done.
Mm.
It was just a huge ego clash in the end, wasn't it, Eric? Really? Was it just they couldn't really get on together, butting heads consistently?
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what it is. Because if you look at Bielsa's reputation for developing young players, he's got the tools there to make this a really exciting team. I think maybe beyond Lebrun, there may have been a bit of an issue on his part with the way that the fans behaved. I mean, they were obviously quite unhappy in the stadium, and there were also reports that Thauvin had issues with fans after the match. I actually thought Thauvin played a pretty decent match for a change. He's to the left, his natural foot. He's going to, I think, do wonders for him this year. But yeah, it's not the kind of situation that any manager is going to want to be in, no matter what the opportunity is to have success on the pitch. If there's this constant power struggle going on, in the boardroom and behind the scenes.
I would just like to weigh in there. For me personally, I don't think it's a bit of an ego clash. I think it's just a massive ineptitude shown by Lebrun. At any other club, there will be, there will be lines drawn out about the coach's responsibilities and duties, and the president and the board are there to support the coach. Whatever the coach wants, obviously within reason, should be supplied. And Lebrun, he did say on Saturday night, look, we've done everything we can to satisfy Bielsa, but if that was the case, we wouldn't be in the mess that we are in now. And the Marseille fans will definitely, the vast majority will be with Bielsa on this. We believe that the whole club, the support of the club, believe that they are being run by a management that are totally out of their depth, that have sold players left, right, and centre. I mean, okay, some of the players were, they ran out of their contracts and they were allowed to leave, but in the end, Marseille only really need to sell one key player this summer. They ended up selling two, and that's only because of a time issue, where the Imbula didn't go before the June 30th deadline. So they sold Payet, and in the end, Imbula went anyway, so Marseille would have a nice little surplus to buy players. We've shown over the last 2 years, through Marseille's recent transfer windows, through the Champions League exit of 2013, losing all 6 games, that every few months the club seems to hold like a demonstration against the management, and this time it's cost the boss his job, because he doesn't want to remain in an environment where this thing happens continuously, with Doria, with the contract, with just even signing the right players for the team so that he can do his job properly. None of these conditions have been met. Money is not an issue. I think the basic respect hasn't been shown from the top down, and whoever's going to take the job next, so good luck to them.
I think the competence, the whole competence debate about Lebrun is a very important one, actually. He just comes across as someone you wouldn't want to give loads of cash to so he could buy players. I remember when Frédéric Thiriez was the LFP, he wanted to reduce the number of relegated sides from 3 to 2, and I'm not even sure how many sides are going down this season, by the way. And one of the first defenders of Thiriez, basically saying yes, the amount of relegated side has to be 2 and not 3, was actually Lebrun, because he wanted the security. He wanted more money coming in from Ligue 1 without really having to work all that much. It just smells like not being the right man for the job. I mean, Bielsa, you can say whatever you want about being unprofessional on this occasion. I think he was, but you just feel that Lebrun is not the right guy to make those really important decisions.
Well, is there an exodus to come of players leaving? There's still 3 weeks of the summer transfer window left. There's plenty of time.
There's already been
I
one.
wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe some players might remain, like Tovan, perhaps Lemina, but I would be really surprised if Nkulu and Mandanda at least wouldn't begin talking with the agents and looking at the situation. If the situation resolved quickly, and the club hire a coach of Bielsa's caliber immediately, maybe the situation would at least be a bit better than it is today. But if it's a long drawn out affair, if by the end of August the club still haven't really identified a successor, let alone signed one already, and the results are not as good, and the team haven't really come together to really get over this situation, then I would be surprised if the key players and Kulu Mandanda don't think, for our futures and for our, in Mandanda's case, for our Euro 2016 hopes, is it better for us to leave?
Yeah, especially since Lois is not actually playing for Spurs either, so it's a big season for him. But has he been linked to a lot of clubs? I can only think of Dynamo Moscow. I haven't read all the transfer rumours, but I haven't seen Mandanda's name that much in the papers. I think he's quite happy to be Marseille's number one, but Nkulu, I think, I'm not so sure. But I don't know, who would you see those two sign for?
I think Nkulu's probably got Lyon and maybe one or two other clubs, maybe a crack at the Premier League. But Mandanda, the goalkeeping market, obviously isn't that strong. But one departure can set it all off, whether it's to the Premier League, whether it's a mid-table Premier League club. Roma was previously mentioned. It'll become clearer. If clubs know that he's available, I'll be surprised if they wouldn't take a punt on him.
Nkulu to Lyon would be a real kick in the teeth to let him go.
Eric, what do you think?
Well, I was going to say Mandanda, I don't think you necessarily have to link him with a particular team, but I mean, he's going to be in a similar situation to Payet, where, he's a player in his late 20s, early 30s, and Mandanda's 30, I believe, who, with the money that the Premier League can offer in terms of wages, I mean, it doesn't even necessarily have to be like the right competitive situation or anything for him, but, that financial security, he could probably, double or treble his wages by going to the Premier League. And there's Liverpool, how many times do you hear people knock Simon Mignolet? There's an example of a, higher up club in England that could potentially use a new keeper. Aston Villa, maybe they want competition for Brad Guzan. That's something I've heard as well. So they already have that large French contingent.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
There's not, these are off the top of my head, but I mean, there's certainly any number of situations that could find themselves attractive to Mandanda. And Nkulu, the same thing. I mean, Lyon is a situation into which he'd sit pretty well. We saw Bissac get done for pace a couple of times yesterday. He's not getting any younger. If you could have a first-choice pairing of Mtiti and Nkulu, I think that'd be, arguably
good.
One of the best center-back pairings in the league.
Right, we'll move on to the next part of this last bit on Marseille. So, who's replacing Bielsa then? We've got a number of names linked: Jurgen Klopp, Jocelyn Gourvenec, Michael Landrup. They've announced earlier that Vincent Montella's could put his hat in the ring as well. There's plenty of other names in there. Who are we going for? Mo, do you want to go first?
I think probably Montella or Mazzari would be the most likely candidates. Only because I think Klopp, as great as it sounds, and Zidane, as fantastic as it sounds, it'd be very unlikely for them to join. And the reports coming out today are saying that Le Brun has contacted Klopp. It would probably just be a maneuver of saving face to make it look like the fans, look, I'm remedying the situation. I'm trying my best, and ultimately, it's almost set. He almost knows that Klopp will definitely not come. He's already committed to the sabbatical, and he can hold his hands up and say, look, I tried. Same for Zidane, same for whoever he wants. He could go over Jose Mourinho, and obviously Mourinho would hang up the phone, but he could say, look, I tried my best. And he's done that many times. He uses these small maneuvers to to make it look like he's not all bad. For example, selling all the players and then announcing 2 at the same time shows that, look, things are not all bad. We're actually working here. But given the time of the year it is, given the fact that domestic coaches are not being targeted because no one would like to follow Bielsa in quitting after the first week or the second week, we're going to be looking at managers from abroad who haven't got a club at the moment. Interesting managers, Montella, who did well with Fiorentina, Mazzari at Napoli and Inter, who'd like to get back into the mainframe, and they would be as expensive as Bielsa, and they could be interesting. So that's what my I'll put £1 on both of them, or either of them to join.
Philip, have you got a favourite?
I think it's Garrett's. They can't aim too high at this moment in time. They're really very in a rush, basically. Has to be done this week or next week. And so for those reasons, it needs to be someone who knows the club, who's very familiar with the club, who's probably done it before. I just can't see someone who has no idea what Marseille is, what the club represents to the people, to the fans all over France. Let's be honest, it's the biggest club in the world, in France, sorry. I think it's going to be Gareth. He hasn't done that much since he left, and he did some really good stuff in at Marseille.
Eric, got a favourite?
I hope, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think Antoine Kombouaré would be a great shout. He's got a good record developing young talent. His current situation at Lens is less than ideal for a manager who has the experience that he's had, and I can see, and he also knows French football. He knows the language. That's going to be an issue for a team that needs to get on track immediately. If you look at the likes of Montella and Mazzari there. So yeah, I think Kombouaré would be a great shout and a very realistic candidate as well for the club.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. I quite fancy Jocelyn Gourvenec myself. I think that will be quite an interesting one. We will move on though. It's time for our transfer talk section where we analyse a few transfer rumours and suggest how well said player might fit into the club. This is also a section for you at home to get involved with, tweet in your opinions and some of your favourite rumours that we can look at next week as well. First off, I'm going to go with Rafael Guerreiro to PSG. Eric, what do you think?
It's bad for the player. He'd sit on the bench. We saw yesterday he's not the finished product. He doesn't have the stamina didn't have the stamina yesterday to play a full match. He faded badly, and there's no way he's getting into the starting 11. For someone who should be targeting being an important player for Portugal going into the 2018 World Cup cycle, sitting on the bench at PSG is I think a very bad move for him. I can't see him displacing any of that midfield, and he doesn't work as a wide player as in a 4-3-3 either.
Mo, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with Eric. I quite like Guerreiro, and I think staying at Lorient or maybe finding another club where he can continue to excel would be the best best thing for him to do at this stage of his career. Joining PSG when he's making good progress with the Portuguese national side would be, I think, almost international suicide for him. He's not the finished product. He will be at this trajectory within a year or two. So anywhere but PSG, if he's going to stay in France, would be good for him.
Philip, would you like to see Guerreiro head to PSG?
Well, PSG do need wingers, but he won't be playing that much, unfortunately. And he is a very good player. He can play left back and left winger. He gets up and down that flank very, very well. He's a very promising player, but PSG is not. It's just not the right time for him. So I hope he doesn't. For him, I hope he doesn't move.
Next, Roma's Mapuyanga Biwa to Lyon. Mo, what do you think of that one?
Well, if it stops them signing Nkulu, I'm all for it. But he's a player with an interesting profile. I don't think he's done too well since leaving Montpellier a few years ago. But a return to Ligue 1 with with Lyon would suit him. I think he knows the league very well, and his qualities would definitely improve the Lyon defense. You mentioned earlier Bisevac, he's on the wane. Signing Yang and Biwa would definitely add some depth, at least, to the Lyon defense. A partnership with Samuel Umtiti could be very interesting. And should it go through, I think, no harm done to both sides. I think that could be a very good move.
Eric?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, as Mo said, Bisevac was, looking at the match yesterday, Bisevac was done for pace by particularly Kanjo on more than one occasion yesterday. And he's not, he doesn't have the necessary ability to play week in, week out in Liga and European competition. So I'd like to see it, at least whether it's Yanga Mbio or Nkulu, quicker, more easily adaptable center back to go alongside Umtiti.
Philip, what do you think to Mbiwa if he heads to Lyon?
I'm not quite sure what happened to him after Montpellier. He was absolutely fantastic when he won the league. And there's a little I saw of him at Newcastle. He was quite good. I think it would be good for him. But he really has shown no real true weaknesses at Newcastle or Roma. So yeah, I'm all for it, and that would be just like the Umtiti and Kulu partnership, and Umtiti Yanga and Mbeumo partnership would be pretty good, pretty tough to break down that one.
And finally, it was completed just before we started the show. Neil Maupay to Saint-Etienne. Philip, what do you think to that one?
I think it's a good move for both of them. Who like Saint-Etienne like a bit of firepower, and I don't know. I think maybe this season Saint-Etienne will need to get a bit of some motivation back. They're going to play in the Europa League again. They want players who are hungry for that kind of experience. Most of the players want to have played it before. I think it's that would be a good deal for everyone involved.
Mel, what do you think of that one?
I don't necessarily think. Would he be right for Saint Etienne at this moment in time? No, I don't think he was even fully fledged at Nice. He's young, but he's got potential. If this move came next year after a solid season this year with Nice, maybe it could have been a good move. But at this stage, no, I don't think. Maybe under Gaultier he might work well, but he's not gonna have the impact that most people would be hoping that he has. I don't think he will necessarily shine, and it'll take some time to get used to because he's moving to a bigger club with a bigger following, and he's got to hit. If this move will be good for both parties and the fans, he's got to hit the ground running, in my opinion.
Eric, what do you think?
I'm kind of indifferent on it. I just don't understand the logic of Saint-Etienne selling Alain Saint-Maximin to Monaco and then going to spend more than half that money on Nolan Roux and Maupay. When Saint-Etienne have been at their best under Gaultier, it's been with a kind of a rangy, pacey, physical winger/striker. If we look at the way they stayed in the Champions League chase to the last match day this year and 2 years ago with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, that's the kind of player that fits the profile for Saint-Etienne to have the success. Gaultier builds that very defensively solid midfield and defense, and he really needs someone who can be quick, pacey option, but still able to score on the break. Maupay is more of a winger/second striker. He doesn't have the frame to sort of be a goal-scoring threat cutting inside. Yes, he's only 18. Maybe he'll develop under Gaultier and they can get a good sell-on fee for him. But I would have preferred to see a player who's a little bit closer to being completed. I mean, Saint-Etienne, they looked all right in their first leg of the Europa League. Third-round qualifier there, but I'm really worried about their goal-scoring abilities this year, and I don't think Maupay is the answer to that.
Absolutely.
Short term, I'm not a fan of this at all.
It is a bit of a strange one, I agree with you, Eric. Well, let's cast our minds back to what seems like an age ago now. Paris Saint-Germain got the season underway on Friday night, winning 1-0 away at Lille, despite going down to 10 men early doors. Eric, how good was this victory for PSG?
I mean, I think it was a tremendous statement. To play that long of time against a decent side that's sort of having a tactical rethink under Hervé Renard. The likes of Boteac and full season of Boufal. There's a bit of excitement among some of the younger players too. You look at the likes of Bavard and the striker Guirassy. That was going to be a difficult situation, even with a full strength squad and 11 men on the pitch. But once again, they shored things up and played opportunistically. Lucas showed why he's a brilliant player in scoring that goal. I think this is a serious marker for PSG. They're going to be extremely difficult to beat this year because if there's any situation the one could see tripping them up. Away to Lille on the open day of the season after a lot of their players were in South America all summer is definitely it. And for them to pass that with the manner they did is really a serious marker.
Philip, what did you think to PSG's game against Lille?
It was it was quite complicated after the sending off. I thought the game started quite well. For PSG, it was very lots of periods, lots of PSG playing in the Lille end, and then Lille playing in the PSG end. Then you had the sending off, which was really not a very wise thing to do for Rabiot to shut from at this point, where he was already on a booking. From there on in, I did not think there would be a goal. But what a goal it was! I mean, there's a triangle pass between the three, between Cavani, Matuidi, and Lucas. The weight of the pass on Matuidi was brilliant. It's one of the aspects of his game that really doesn't get mentioned enough is that his passing is absolutely phenomenal. And Lucas did the business against Enyama. And from there, I mean, Lille are still suffering from last season. They're still having this kind of defensive rigidity from Giard, and Renard is going to take some time to get them acquainted with that. Plus, he bought from Ligue 2. He bought Guirassy from Laval, who looked terrified of Thiago Silva and David Luiz, to be honest. And there wasn't really never going to be any doubt on the final score of the game. It was always going to end 1-0. So good win for PSG, and quite a ruthless win actually, which is quite interesting for PSG, but not really for the drama at the top end of the table.
Well, the biggest talking point was Rabiot's red card. It was pretty petulant from the youngster. Mo, is his attitude a real worry for PSG going forward?
I don't think necessarily. Looking back at the sending off, it did leave the team in a bit of discomfort throughout the game. But I don't necessarily think his attitude is a problem. I think it's something that will, with age, as he grows older, it was something that will eventually dissipate. He has been. It's 3 years since Carlo Ancelotti threw him into the deep end against Toulouse, and he's still a very young player, very talented young player. Is it a bit petulant sometimes? Yes, but it won't necessarily harm PSG in the long run if they keep the faith in him and continue to nurture him. It won't be a problem, I think.
Eric, what did you think of the red card?
Again, I agree with Mo. It's a little bit harsh, but he does need to display a little bit more discipline. Ligue 1 is a physical league. That kind of tackling is not going to fly in the Champions League. If this happens against the likes of a Barcelona or any team that PSG could potentially face in the knockout rounds, it could really be disastrous. Rabiot again, he's one for the future. He's 20 years old, tremendous talent, but he's still just slightly below the standard that PSG really need to quote-unquote progress this season, at least in terms of European competition.
How good was Thiago Motta in this one, Philip? What would PSG do if he does leave like he's reportedly wanting to? Philip? Not sure if you can hear me. Mo, do you want to have a go at that one? How good was Thiago Motta in this one?
I think he's still shown that he's got the quality. I mean, a lot have been said that this could be his final season with PSG, or you could leave in the window. But PSG do need him, and he's shown glimpses in the Lille game what he can do. And I think if they keep him, the better. Absolutely.
Eric, what do you think to Thiago Motta's performance?
Yeah, I mean, he was tremendous. He, totally changed the complexion of the match. Just that experience shows, he's a professional. Maybe he's unhappy with the situation at the club at present, but he showed how he's streets ahead of Rabiot and his influence in the back of midfield, continually bailing PSG out, not only on Friday, but throughout the course of the time he spent there.
Well, as for Lille, it was a little toothless in the end, really. Is that a concern that needs to be addressed before the window closes, Mel?
Oh, absolutely. I'm looking at the team. There is a lot of quality missing. I mean, we've got players like Baumont and Mavuba who've been at Lille, who have been at the heart of Lille's successes over the past few years, and they'll continue to do so even if they are getting on in terms of age. But the quality that Lille have been renowned for over the last few years, it just isn't there. It just isn't there for me. And it's something that Renard really has to focus on with his management, with the Lille hierarchy, because looking at that squad, I don't think they'll finish higher than 10th, in my opinion. And this is a club that 2 years ago finished third, that has been good in the transfer market and in their own academy of bringing interesting youngsters through. But they've got a real job on their hands if they want to become the team that they want to be and meet the objectives that they've set themselves. I think if Lille are not in Europe come the end of the season, that would be a massive failure on their part.
And it'll be interesting going forward, I think, for them for the rest of the season, especially if they can't find that goal scorer. We'll move on. The Sunday night game saw Lyon held at home against Lorient in a relatively tepid affair, especially in the second half. More worrying could be that Lacazette's back injury that saw the striker come off towards the end. How much of a blow would it be if if he's missing any time for Lyon, Eric?
Indescribably huge. Particularly if Clinton Angie goes. Claudio Bovio has showed that playing in this Diamond 4-4-2 is not his game. He doesn't have the right combination of skills to deal with that. With Benzia not ready, with Yatara having been so long, Lyon are very, very short of striking options right now, even considering that you could move Fakir up to be part of a 2. They did that on several occasions last year with Gourcuff playing behind them. We look at the way that Lacazette and Ng interact in the front of that top 2 as the front 2, and that was really key to the way that Lyon operated last year. We saw them kind of bobble along during that month that Lacazette missed with injury last year, but I think this season it would be even more of an issue, particularly if Ng ends up going.
Well, Lyon lacked a little bit in the final third, looking like they ran out of ideas towards the end. Do they need a little bit more? And by a little, I mean Mathieu Valbuena, Philip.
Yeah, well, who doesn't? It was a quite a surprise to me actually tactically. You saw Fournier ditch the diamond check 4-4-2, 4-4-3-3, and actually saw Beauvue liaise quite well with Fekir and Lacazette up front, and that the midfield 3 were actually doing all right. So I'm not quite sure. So of course, obviously, if you have Valbuena on the right somewhere and making all these runs around, it's much more simpler for Lyon and for players to play with him. So yeah, I think that Lyon basically missed their chance of opening the scoreline on this magnificent triple save from Lecomte, and yeah, afterwards Lorient were quite confident. They went in at halftime having not conceded any goals, and they were playing quite good football themselves. So it was quite encouraging, shall we say. Plus, I think Lyon won't be too distraught with the draw. I mean, they did have a very bad pre-season run coming into this game, including defeats to Arsenal and PSG. So making it as this a 0-0 draw is probably not the worst results that could have happened to Lyon.
Well, talking about Lecomte, Mo, he had a fantastic game, really, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. He's a goalkeeper on the up, and he's I think he kept Lorient in the game. He pulled off a number of magnificent saves and definitely earned almost single-handedly the point that his side have gained. Yeah.
Yeah, the triple save was magnificent.
Absolutely,
especially
yeah.
the third one, I still can't get over the third one, I don't think. Lorient relied on a lot on Lecomte heroics, but had one or two opportunities themselves. Should this be a better season for the Brittany side, despite my tip for relegation, Eric?
Yeah, absolutely. With Guerrero as a full-time attacker, and one of Philippe Pateau or this youngster Bouanga, who I thought actually did quite well yesterday, especially making his first start in Ligue 1. This 4-4-2 looks a lot more solid than the system they used last year. Benjamin Jeannot seems to have adjusted to Ligue 1 a little bit more after an up-and-down season last year. I know he didn't score, but had a couple of decent efforts and was really facilitating the runs in of the likes of Benjamin Mkanjo, the new signing, and the wingers. There's just a lot more balance to this team than there was last year. And yeah, they're not going to challenge for Europe, but I don't think relegation's at all going to be a worry for them, particularly if they can, get something out of some of the players who we didn't see a lot of yesterday. I'm thinking in particular of Valentin Lavigne, the youngster who had some bright moments last year as well.
That's very true. I'm slightly worried I will be eating my words already. It's only been one weekend in. We're going to talk about the heroes and villains of this weekend now, if that's all right with you, gentlemen. I'll go with you, Eric. Who's your hero and who's your villain?
Lecomte, easily. It's not as if Lorient didn't have chances, but all the saves he made and his positioning, his command of the area. I mean, Lyon had little to no joy on set pieces from corners or from free kicks. So yeah, definitely Lecomte. For villain, I'm going to go with the Marseille fans for the incident with Thauvin and also for the whistling at the Velodrome. I understand that Caen are a team that struggled last year and are missing some of the players who did very well for them last year. But Caen played really well. De Silva and Yaya in particular had good matches at the back. And this is a really, really, really young team. Barada and Romao and Mandanda, I think, are the only players over 23 or 24. And many of them had never played together before in a competitive match. I'm thinking about the likes of the substitutes, Nkudu and Star in particular. There needs to be Marseille fans need to look at their team as a long-term project, and if they can't have that patience to see how these youngsters develop, this is going to be a really, really disappointing season for them. Who knows? They can maybe be the next Lyon with the number of these young players they've got coming through. If they all can, coalesce and come together as a whole, but the fans need to realize that and be patient. This isn't the Marseille of 3 or 4 years ago in the Champions League round of 8 and all of the success that they had around that time.
Philip, who have you got this week?
My hero would be Les Matuidi for this pass on Lucas's goal and for his general very, very good game, as usual. But this is really one of the things I studied on Friday evening of Matuidi's game, and the villain would have to be Bielsa, who whatever you've done in the past, you don't leave the club on the opening day of the season, no matter the circumstances, even though those circumstances were very special.
Mo, who flattered did it see for you?
In terms of the heroes, I'm torn between Angers and Caen. Obviously, the fantastic 2-0 win away to Montpellier was a great way to start the season, and they lead the table, as they have done for much of the summer, but that was for alphabetical reasons rather than for on-pitch quality. But I'll probably slightly edge for Caen because I like the balance they have in the squad, and the Velodrome seems to be such a happy hunting ground for them. 3 wins and a draw over the past 5 years, 2 of which have come on opening day. They're a team that play, well, for some reason, when they play against Marseille, it's a team without fear, and they play very, very solid. And I like the team that Garand has got, and trying to mold these players together. I'm really interested to see what they do this season. It's a fantastic platform to start building with. First game of the season, winning away at the Velodrome. They should really push on, and I think this season could be much better than the last one.
Well, thank you for the excellent link there, Mo, for our final topic, which will focus on the sheer amount of upsets that we saw in this first weekend of results. Angers pulled out a great win at Montpellier. Caen won at Marseille, as we've said. Reims came from behind against Bordeaux, and Toulouse beat Saint-Etienne at home. Let's focus on Angers first, who, as Mo said, is leading the table at the moment. What an absolutely fantastic result on the first day for the new side, Philip.
Yeah, it's great for a promoted side to go to a team like Montpellier. The Mousson has not been a great place to play football for the away side. Been quite tough to beat lately, and Angers have been working for so long to get their chance of playing in Ligue 1, and they've really taken their chance. It's been really good. You don't really feel this type of surprise. So you feel it a bit more when Caen win at Marseille, but it's I don't know. It just seems like a result that could have happened, even when you don't know both squads that are playing. But still, it was a great surprise, and it's great to see them at the top of the French football pyramid.
Mo, Angers' win was a real opening day classic, wasn't it? Really, of a promoted side getting one over against an established Ligue 1 club.
Absolutely, and the way they played as well on Saturday night, because I think for a team that Phil said that's worked so hard getting to the top division, working so hard through the second division last year, why not go out and enjoy it and give your best? I mean, it'll be a long, arduous season for them, and they will find it tough, especially if they are towards the lower ends of the table pretty soon, probably by the end of the month or September. But to go out there and show the whole country and what they can do on the first night of the season against an established team, anything can happen. If they keep up that positivity and that mentality of, at the very least, we are 11 men against 11 men, why not? Who knows what could happen.
Well, putting Marseille's woes aside for their game, how good were Caen in the Velodrome, Eric?
They were fantastic. I mean, in Damien De Silva and Yahya, you've got 2 really fantastic central defenders. Good industry from the fullbacks. Andy Delors looks quite the signing. I mean, talk about work rate. Fantastic goal. Really top performance from Caen. I mean, I worry for them. How influential N'Golo Kante had been, losing Salah, who'd been on loan. Thomas Lemar, again, had been an impact substitute on more than one occasion. This is going to be a much better season than I think people would realize for Caen.
And Mo, you said earlier, Caen really put in a good performance, didn't they?
Absolutely. I also do feel like they've been helped a little bit by luck, considering the amount of chances that Marseille spurned. But I think a team that needs a little bit of luck in these situations, but they held their own by a good distance as well, and they were good value for their win.
As for Reims and Toulouse, Philip, were they taking advantage of some Europa League fatigue from Saint-Etienne and Bordeaux in this one?
Yeah, and probably, I mean, Reims and Toulouse were not expected to win any games. They almost went down. So having Reims win at Bordeaux and Toulouse beating Saint-Etienne, who are both in the Europa League, is a big surprise. It's quite a surprise. But I was actually more impressed with Reims, who had to go from a goal down and to win at Bordeaux. Then you had Toulouse. The Toulouse result impressed me a bit less.
Eric, what did you think to Reims' win?
I think they did quite well. They were pretty leaky at the back last year, and they seemed to really tighten things up. Getting back their defensive midfield certainly helped them out a lot. It was good, and also I think that was something that we might not have seen last season from Reims, is continuing to battle and scoring those goals in the last 10 minutes. That to me speaks volumes about, not necessarily the level of talent of this team, but if they can show that drive in a tough situation, European caliber team away from home, then I don't think Reims are going to be anybody's pushover this season either. That was excellent. Toulouse, I think, did really well. You got to remember that, even though Ben Yedder didn't have the best of seasons last time out, he's still one of the better strikers in Ligue 1, and is the type of player that a lot of sides that finished above Toulouse in the table would kill to have. I think there's a lot more balance in Toulouse's squad this year. They seem to sort things out. Akro looked really dynamic coming from midfield. Yes, they scored both their goals from set pieces from iffy defending from Saint-Etienne, but I think Toulouse is another team that's going to be comfortably mid-table rather than the relegation strugglers we saw last season.
Yeah, and it was an interesting weekend, I think, for both of them. Mo, do you think Toulouse really earned the win there against Saint-Etienne?
I think it's down to the fatigue. I agree with the points that have been made. It's mostly Saint-Etienne and Bordeaux. They're going to have to get to grips. The longer they go in Europe, it's less than 3 days turnaround before they play again on Sunday, and both of them have eked out wins in the qualifying stage of the Europa League on Thursday, and to come and play with the exact intensity that other clubs have played with them at the weekend, they just didn't really bring the same intensity in their play, the same focus. Having already played competitively early on in the campaign already, they're lacking a bit of that freshness. But it's something that, again, they'll get used to the longer they stay in the qualifying stages, the playoffs, and the group stage. Hopefully, should both get there.
Yeah, and it will be an interesting season as we go forward. Probably not as many upsets as we saw this week. Well, that's all the time that we have for this week. Thanks, Mo, for joining us. And
thank you.
Feel free to check him out on Twitter at @MohammedAli_93. The link is also in the description if you forget at home. Thanks to Eric and Philip. Thanks to you at home. Thanks to French Football for giving us plenty of content this week. It's always good to be back. Have a good evening, everyone.